Now, health officials in the northeast region say a skin disease spreading through the region is scabies. Acting Regional Health Director Dr. Abdullah Abubakar briefed the Region Security Council this morning about the extent of the spread of the disease. We'll hear from the head of the chairman of the RECSEC shortly. First, though, let's speak to our correspondent there, Ilyasu Tanko, who has been traveling through the community since the last 2 days. Hello, Ilyasu.
Hi, Gifty.
Yeah, so how badly are people affected? We know so far that about 200 people, including children, some of whom we are seeing in the videos right now, have been affected. How bad would you say the situation is?
So, Gifty, I traveled to Dagboro in the East Mampresi municipality where this contagious disease started from. And I met a woman who told me that she has not been able to go to market for some 3 months now because she has been affected and she has become very restless. She scratches her body all the time, and so it has affected her. She has not been able to go to the market to sell her farm produce. And so these are some of the stories that you hear in that particular community, and it gives you a scenario of how badly the disease has affected those people in the area.
Do the people know where this is coming from? Where did it even start? I mean, how did it spread to this number of people? Do they have an idea?
Not at all. In that particular community, when we visited yesterday, they were attributed this particular disease to bad omen, and some were also saying, because when we went there, we saw that trees in this particular community were dying, the branches, the leaves were all dying, and we saw that there were bacteria that have affected this particular tree. And so majority of the locals in this particular community were attributing it to this particular bacteria that were killing the trees in that particular area. And
yes, go ahead, Ilyasu.
Yes, some of them was actually saying that they suspect that somebody might have done something wrong, and they are getting the repercussions. So they gave, several reasons, and all these reasons were actually not scientific.
Of course, so these are superstitious thoughts that they attach to this themselves. But how are officials in the community handling the problem?
We understand this problem has persisted for 4 months now, but according to residents, in fact, the prince of that community told me that because of ignorance and poverty, many people failed to report the disease to health authorities in the area. And so it's just quite recently that health authorities in that particular region got to hear of this particular disease. They moved in yesterday and they made some assessments. And like you rightly said, today the health officials briefed the Security Council, the regional minister himself, on this particular incident. So
have they been able to find some sort of a solution, anything, even if it's temporary? Are they sending in any medicines? Is anything happening like this?
Yes, of course. Because of the impoverished nature of health centers across the region, most of them lack essential drugs. And so the hospital, and even in the northern regional capital, Tamale, where we have the regional store, do not have the drugs for this particular disease, the scabies disease. And so what we are learning, or what authorities there are telling us, that they have ordered or placed orders for supplies to be provided from somewhere in Kumasi, of course, and other areas. And so there are efforts underway to get drugs for these people.
Well, I see there's a gentleman in the videos that you sent. There's a gentleman who is also, showing us which parts of the bodies of these kids have been infected, etc. But he doesn't himself seem to be protected. But we know that this is something that spreads quite rapidly, doesn't it?
Exactly. What we learned from the regional minister himself is that they suspect that somebody might have brought it, or a young lady who went to Kaya came back with this particular disease, and it has been spreading since. She returned for some 4 months now, and like you said, some 16 communities are currently affected, including the regional capital, Nalerigo. Today, we confirmed about 2 persons who showed us a sign of this particular rabies disease. And so it's highly, highly contagious. But the fact is that not everybody in that particular community are affected, but majority, nearly 90% of these people in these particular communities are affected.
And it's quite worrying to see that children have to go through this as well. But let's hear from the assemblyman who has been talking to Ilyasu as well. We come back and we wrap up with you, Ilyasu.
Discovered 4 months ago. In fact, it is actually a calamity that has befallen on the people of my area, known as the Outbreak of Scabies. At first, we didn't take it, we take it very light, simply because we thought it was just an ordinary rashes. But before we realized it was beyond our control. A heavy downpour came, and within a week time, all our neem trees in our houses started wilting down, which poses more worry in the people of Dagboro because this is the first time in the history of Dagboro. With this, the chief has to liaise with his linguists and then the elders of the community just to know the causes of why all these things have happened to Dagboro in particular. They have consulted the gods, all they can, they have done it. But the disease in particular, in fact, it keeps rising. Most people complain that they will go to hospital, but they don't always get their treatment from the hospitals because the drugs given to them don't always cure them.
And certainly we'll have to get to the bottom of this. What is causing this problem and how can it be solved, especially for these children that are having to deal with this? Well, the regional minister has also been speaking to Ilyasu Tanko.
Read comprehensively by the Municipal Director of Health Service and then the Acting Regional Director of Health Services. And I want to assure every Tom, Dick and Harry that there's no cause for alarm. This is our investigations on the field has revealed that this is scabies. Scabies is one of the neglected tropical diseases, for want of better expression. Let me put it that way, because it's not among the top diseases that anytime at all there's an outbreak, then everybody is running haywire. Neglected because it's not something that can lead to the loss of life. It's about unhygienic conditions that normally is normally associated with that kind of disease. The suspicion is that somebody who had gone came back with such rashes on the body, and then it escalated to this unacceptable level. And as I talk to you now, we are working assiduously to make sure that we nip it in the bud within the shortest possible time. Already, sensitization is ongoing in this community to let them adhere to the acceptable hygienic practices. Because if you are confronted with such an unfortunate situation, that you use a towel or a sponge, then the next can also use the same towel or sponge. It continues that way, and you can be sure, and it spreads very, very fast. It spreads very, very fast. We are in touch with we are yet to win ourselves fully from the northern region. So we're in touch with the Northern Regional Director of Health Services, and for that matter, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Health Service, the hardworking Dr. Asari, to see how we can get the needed drugs to come in strongly. And this will not, I'm sure within the next 1 or 2 days, we should be on the field with all these things, the detergents and all those, whilst the sensitization is ongoing. Normally, such kind of unhealthy symptoms, I understand, is more severe in the night. Then in the daytime, when you go there, you see the children who are normally who are unfortunately the victims. See them more who are walking and doing everything normally. There's once in a while you feel some scratch, but in the night when they are going to bed, then they are confronted with this. So I can assure everyone, Tom, Dick, and Harry that there's no cause for alarm in the Northeast region. Everything is under control, and anybody that wants to visit us to do his normal business should feel free to come around. It's not any threatening type of thing. We are very much on top of the issue, and by the grace of Almighty God, it will soon be a thing of the past.
Soon be a thing of the past, the sooner the better. And Ilyasu, what at the time you were leaving, what was the mood in the area?
Well, I mean, this one gives me, it does not only highlight the outbreak, but it also highlights the plight that rural villages, especially this part of the country, the conditions that they are living. We know that the predisposing factors of this particular disease are overcrowding, poor hygiene, poor nutritional status, immigration. And you just heard the minister talking about somebody from going to Kayaye and returning with this particular issue. There are some of the villages that are affected that health officials are not able to travel to these communities to make an assessment of the situation because of bad roads. And health facilities in these parts of the communities remain heavily understaffed, and there's chronic lack of essential supplies. And so this particular outbreak does not only highlight an outbreak, but it also highlights the poor living condition of rural dwellers in this part of the country.
And the earlier the better, before it spreads to other parts and it becomes uncontrollable, so to speak. Ilyasu Tanko, the Northeast region correspondent. Ilyasu, thank you for those updates.